Perfect. Thank you, Abdul, for the warm welcome and good afternoon to you all. I'm glad that you're here and curious to learn more about how we can use AI tools more effectively. Because as Abdul said, there's been a lot of hype. AI is everywhere. And today we'll explore how we can use those tools by asking the right questions. So basically, in other words, how can we use them effectively? How can we write a good prompt? How can we guide the AI to give us the results that we need to execute our work, communicate more effectively, and be more efficient? So I'm looking forward to exploring this with you. If at any point things are unclear or you have a question, please feel free to interrupt me, raise your hand and speak up. And there will be also interactive elements throughout exercises and also a discussion. So plenty of opportunity to exchange ideas. So just so you know who I am, for those of you who have not encountered me before, I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. My background is in bioinformatics and molecular biology. So I've spent quite a few years working in research. After that, I transitioned to science communication, where I currently work at the European Science Communication Institute, a partner of the CURIOSOIL project. And there I do project management, science communication, but also I do training and run workshops like the one today. In general, I am very curious. I like clear answers, and that's why I also like good prompts when it comes to AI tool usage. Okay, so enough about me. Now I'd like to hear from you. So as I said, this workshop will be interactive and throughout we'll be using AHA slides, so this interactive polling option. Please, to get familiar with the tool, please head over to the URL displayed on the slide here on top, so ahaslides.com/CSAI, or you can, with your phone, scan the QR code on the left-hand side. I see 2 people already successfully arrived. So once you log on or you enter the URL, you will see this question and you can reply to the question anonymously. And I'm just curious to see how many people of you use AI, and then also how often do you use it, daily or less frequently. So I see people are joining, but responses have not yet come in. So I'll just wait a couple more seconds, just so that we get a feeling for the range of experiences we have in the room today. Since there are still no responses, could I get a brief feedback of whether people are able?
When I see what I see is that I see there's 15 people who voted for daily and 6 who voted for weekly, and I managed to submit my answer.
Okay.
But they don't show on your slide, but I see them on.
Okay, maybe if I reload, maybe I'll get
I
the
think
results.
those who participate are seeing the live responses.
Okay. Oh,
yes.
Okay. There they are. Okay. Okay. So it was just a refresh issue. Perfect. Okay. So we have all of you use it at least weekly, but we do have 4 people that don't use them regularly. So it is a range of experiences, leaning more towards the more frequent users. But for today's workshop, there is no pressure to be a power AI user. So whether you use it daily, weekly, or have not used it at all, I hope there's something that you can take away from the workshop, regardless of your experience level. Now, a follow-up question for those of you that use AI tools. I'd be curious to know, what do you use them for when it comes to your work life? So what tasks, if you can just enter a few keywords. Again, this is anonymous, so we won't be seeing who said what, but we'll be seeing a word cloud of responses. And I'll preemptively refresh the slide just to make sure that I get the responses as they come in. Okay, again, it's showing that participants are typing, but again, I don't see any responses. Let me reload. Okay. Okay, so apparently it is not refreshing automatically. I don't know what is going on, but great to see lots of responses. The top one being research. So researching content. I see image generation. I see translation. That's also a very frequent AI use case. Synthesizing information, so summarizing, improving text, so editing text, proofreading. And then also I see brainstorming, so generating ideas, getting critical feedback, voiceover generation as well. So if from quickly glancing at, we have a lot of text-based AI use cases, some image, some voice, no video, idea generation I see as well. So a huge variety of use cases. That's great to see. Thank you for submitting your responses. It's always interesting to see how varied the use cases are when it comes to AI tools. And it really emphasizes how versatile those tools can be. And to make it a bit more structured, I always like to think of the strengths or opportunities that AI tools can offer in these 5 categories. So first, creation of content. So many of you said writing or creating a text. So that's one use case, whether it's a social media post or a press release or a periodic report for the European Commission, an event announcement. AI tools can be very helpful to get you started, to get rid of this white blank page that can be very intimidating, and they can create a first draft that can be quite useful. The second use case or group of use cases is simplification, I like to call it. So you can use AI tools to summarize information, simplify information, break a complex topic into a simpler form. And this can also support accessibility, for example, by translating a complex jargon-laden text into a more accessible and plain language text. The third opportunity of AI tools is acceleration. So they can automate routine tasks, or they can reduce repetitive work and help us save time. The fourth is expanding upon existing ideas or brainstorming. I mean, I saw that mentioned on the AHA slide before. Getting a fresh perspective or getting new ideas. And AI tools can also help us better tailor our communication to different audiences, so expanding to different target audiences, which can also foster inclusion and diversity. And then the fifth category is reflection. That's something that I don't see, or they didn't see frequently mentioned, but AI tools can be used as a kind of dialogue or sparring partner. They can help us organize our thoughts or test certain arguments or simulate feedback. So not just generating output, but also supporting our thinking process. And across all these 5 areas, AI tools can be very helpful. Abdul has his hand raised. I'm sorry. Abdul, go ahead.
That was a mistake.
Sorry.
That was a mistake. Thank you very much. Sorry. Please carry on. It's all good.
Okay, sorry. It was very choppy for me to hear. Okay, if it's all good then. Okay. So yeah, across all these areas, AI tools can really open up new opportunities, but those tools are not magic, and the results are not always perfect. So it's very important to be critical of the results, but with the right approach and the right tools and tactics, the tools can be very helpful. And that's exactly what today's workshop will be about, helping you get better at working with these AI tools and using them with intention. So just a quick overview of what we'll cover today. We'll start with the basics of prompting. So what makes a good prompt, how can we write a good prompt so that we can guide the AI tool effectively. Then we'll touch on responsible and safe use of AI. This won't be a deep dive into the legal or data protection questions simply because we have limited time today, but I'll highlight a few important points that you should keep in mind when working with AI tools. And then finally, we'll look at a variety of AI tools, focusing exclusively today on text-based AI tools, and we'll explore how to use them in practice. Importantly, the focus of today's workshop is on hands-on. So the inputs that you'll get from me, the theory, will be short or kept short so that you have enough time for trying out the things that you learn. So lots of time for hands-on activities. And by the end of the workshop, you'll hopefully have a better sense of how to write effective prompts. You'll also have tried out different tools along the way. And during the hands-on parts, you'll have the chance to work on something that is relevant for your work, so a task from your own to-do list, so that by the end of the workshop, you'll hopefully not only have learned something new, but you'll also leave the workshop having picked off something from your own to-do list. So let's get started. When using AI tools, we want them to support us and to provide good output. What does good output actually mean? When I refer to good outputs, AI output, I mean output that is helpful, that is useful, and that is specific for the task that I have in mind. And in order to obtain good output, the input needs to be good. In other words, the prompt that we enter into the AI tool needs to be well written and well structured. And for this to be the case, there are three essential components that we need to consider, three key aspects. The first one is the prompt structure. So how have we written and built our prompt? The second is the prompt type, meaning how much context do we give the AI tool and in what form? And the third is the prompting process, which is how do we interact with the AI tool throughout, and how do we refine our results. These three elements, so structure, type, and process, are what help us get good AI output. And now we'll take a closer look at all three of them, starting with the prompting structure. So how do you write a prompt that is well structured, well written, and that ensures that the AI tool gives you exactly what you're looking for? At ESCI, we have developed a simple framework, which we like to call RAFT, and that's an acronym that stands for role, assignment, format, and tone. And these are the four key building blocks that need to be contained in your prompt for it to be effective. So starting with the R, the role, ask yourself, what role should the AI tool take? Should it be a scientist? Should it act as a science journalist, a child that is 5 years old? Should it be a grandmother? Define a specific role so that you receive a very tailored output. The second component of a good prompt is the assignment. What exactly is the task that you want the AI tool to do? Be as specific and detailed as you can so that the AI understands what you want it to do. And then also the third component, the format, the F. How should the output look like? Should it be a text? Should it be bullet points? Should it be a poem, a list, a table? Also here, being very specific and concise is very important. And then the tone, what kind of writing style should the output have? Should it be neutral, professional, motivating, funny, simple, clear? Also language, also here being specific gives you good output. So considering these four components and all four of them and including them in your prompt will ensure that you get a good output or at least much better results than writing an unstructured prompt. And to give you an example of how you can build prompts using RAFT, here is just one scenario where I built a RAFT prompt and used ChatGPT for that. So the task or the role that I assigned the AI was to act as a biology teacher who is interested in designing a test for a ninth grade class. The task, the assignment is to create 5 multiple choice questions with 1 correct answer. That's the format. And the tone should be clear, age appropriate, and engaging. So instead of simply writing, give me a quiz on this topic, I created this more elaborate prompt and received a very tailored and fitting quiz for my ninth graders. And then here's another example. This time I used another tool, not ChatGPT, but LeChat. LeChat is a tool from the company Mistral, which is a French company. So it's entirely based in the European Union, and it is GDPR compliant. Just something to keep in mind, but we'll discuss this tool a bit more later on. But the prompt that I used here was, again, a RAFT prompt, where the role that I assigned to the AI tool, was to act as a social media expert with experience in accessible communication. And the assignment, was to generate alternative text for images. Alternative text is helpful for visually impaired people and describes an image in 2 to 3 sentences. And the tone is that I defined was clear, neutral, and informative. And here you can see the resulting output for 1 exemplary image. So it is a blue tractor that pulls a trailer loaded with large cylindrical hay bales. So it accurately describes the image in the format that I desired. So these 2 examples just illustrate how RAFT can help you structure your prompt and can lead to more useful output. So this covers the first building block for good AI output, which is the structure of the prompt. And now let's move on to the second component, which is the prompt type. So in other words, how much context does the AI tool need? How much guidance do I provide? And the simplest type of prompt is the zero-shot prompt. This means you give the AI a task and you do not provide any exemplary output. So all of the 2 RAFT examples that I've showed you earlier were zero-shot prompts. So I basically wrote the RAFT prompt without giving any exemplary output, without giving any exemplary alternative text that the AI tool could use. I simply expected the tool to know based on my prompt what to do without any additional examples. And these types of prompts, the zero-shot prompts, work well for simple tasks, for well-defined, for standardized tasks like generating alt text. But as soon as things get a bit more complex or you need a more nuanced answer, it's usually worth giving the AI a bit more guidance in the form of a one-shot prompt. This means that you give a single example included in your prompt, something that the tool can use as a reference. So here's an example. The AI should act as a social media expert, and it should write a LinkedIn post based on a press release that I include in the prompt. I specify the format and I specify the tone. And now what I also do is I add an example of a previous social media post that I created so that the AI tool knows in which format and tone I would like to have the output in. For this example, I used the AI tool Claude, which is an AI that handles examples extremely well because it has a very large context window, meaning you can include a lot of information in your prompt, in your conversation, and the AI tool is able to keep track and doesn't lose sight of all the information that you provided. In some admittedly rare cases, a single example is not enough. This is especially the case when the task is very complex or you require more nuance. And that's where a few shot prompts can be very helpful. So instead of simply giving one example of the output that you would like to have, you include several examples. And this gives the AI tool a better idea of what type of output you exactly want to have. And this can be very useful in specific cases. Great, so far we've covered 2 of the 3 key elements for good AI output, namely the prompt structure and the prompt type. And now let's look at the final component, namely the prompting process. And this is about how you interact with the AI during the task. So how do you guide it step by step? How do you develop the prompt over time? I have two methods that I wanted to share with you. And the first one is chain of thought. The chain of thought method. This means that you ask the AI to explain its reasoning, its thought process, step by step, before giving an answer. Again, the disclaimer, when we say thought process or reasoning, we humanize the AI. Of course, the AI is not thinking in the classic sense, but thinking, but this helps, like using these metaphors helps us visualize the process. So that's why the method is called chain of thought. Just an example here, again, I used Lechat and RAFT. So I specified a role, an assignment, a format, and a tone, which I've underlined here, but I also added the single sentence, explain your reasoning step by step. So I'm asking the AI to not only give me the output, but to also tell me how it reached this conclusion. And this is very helpful to get transparency on how the conclusion was reached and to identify any misunderstandings or any mistakes that the AI made. And this allows you to then refine in a second step, refine your prompt, ask for correction and adjustments. And if you do chain of thought and you spot a misunderstanding, or if you're not satisfied with the output, you can employ iterative prompting. So instead of trying to write the perfect prompt and receive the perfect output from the get-go, you go step by step. So you start with an initial prompt written using RAFT. Then you look at the results, and if you're not satisfied, you adjust the prompt. Maybe you clarify something, the tone, the format. You give feedback and ask for changes. And this is very helpful to improve the prompt and can be very helpful, especially if you don't know from the get-go exactly how you want to word something or how you want to prompt most effectively. Both these methods, so chain of thought and iterative prompting, can shift how we use AI tools. So rather than thinking of them as simple output machines, we can view them as collaborators that we work together on a problem with. Great. So we've covered the three essential components for good AI output. I've summarized them here. So again, the three components are the structure, the type, and the prompting process. And I've also listed the methods that we've explored. I'll also share a handout so that you have an overview of different components. And what's nice about these methods is that they're not mutually exclusive. So you can mix and match depending on what you want to achieve. So here's a practical overview to help you decide which combinations of methods to use depending on what you want to achieve and the task you're working on. So say you want a quick result, then I recommend you use RAFT for structuring your prompt and a zero-shot prompt, so no additional examples. This works very well for simple, well-defined tasks. If things get a bit more complex, examples make a big difference. So use RAFT in combination with a one or few shot prompt. And I also recommend using chain of thought to get a bit of transparency behind how the output was obtained. And if you don't know exactly what you want or how to word it, then iterative prompting in combination with RAFT can be very helpful. In all cases, RAFT is a very useful starting point for structuring your prompt. And then one more tip is to start building your own prompt library. This means that in your day-to-day work, start saving prompts that have worked well for you, prompts that you use frequently for tasks that you have to do frequently. Save these prompts in a simple text document or Word file, just to save you the trouble from having to frequently rewrite these prompts. And then you have a library that you can refer back to. And to get you started on this library, I brought a few helpful phrases to include in your prompts. I won't go through them in detail, just some pointers here. What I find very helpful is to ask the AI tool to think carefully before it responds. It's a very simple question, but I found that it gives more accurate answers. And also to ask to check assumptions. Both assumptions in your prompt, so check any biases that you might have or any mistakes that you might have made in your prompt, and also to correct them. If you don't explicitly include this in your prompt, the AI tool won't correct any mistakes you make because those tools are designed in a way to please the user. So they don't, if you don't explicitly ask them to, they won't object or contradict you. So I find this very helpful to spot any mistakes that we might make. Great, so these are just a few pointers or helpful phrases to include in your prompt library. This was quite a long input. I've been talking for quite some time. And we've covered quite a lot. So now it's time to hand it over to you and give you some time to explore the methods that we learned. So here's what to do, what the task is. As I said, you'll be working on tasks of your own choosing, so something that is relevant to you, something from your to-do list. So choose a task that is on your to-do list today. This can be an email that you have to write, or a social media post that you want to draft, or a research paper that you want summarized. Use an AI tool, a single AI tool of your choice that you frequently use and that you feel comfortable with. And try solving this task using the methods that I shared. So try the RAFT formula, try a one-shot prompt, a few-shot prompt, ask for a chain of thought method. I'll share the handout in a moment, but idea is that you have some time, 10 minutes, to explore the different methods. And throughout the process, think of some insights or things you notice that you would like to share with the group, maybe open questions or concerns you have, and then we'll follow these up in the group discussion. So let's take 10 minutes, so until 10 past 2, and I'll share the handout in the chat as we speak. Are there any questions? Let me stop sharing. No. Okay.
There is one.
Now I can see you. Are there any questions? Okay, please go ahead.
No, you didn't have a question, Pierre? No, okay.
I just said that Dora asked one question on the chat, a list of tools that are recommended for the different purposes.
Yes, now I see it. Yes, so we will speak about tools in the second section, in the second exercise. So for now, just maybe pick one AI tool that you've used frequently so far, or that you've wanted to try out. But yeah, there will be more tools and what they're good at in the second part of the workshops. Do the settings of the AI affect this recommended approach? That's a very good question. That's something that you can play with maybe in the next minutes, and that's something that we can discuss all together as a group. The handout with the methods and also the components for the prompt library is in the chat, so you can view the PDF document. Okay, it's 10 past 2. I hope you had a bit of time to play around and try the different methods for structuring your prompt. And I'm very curious what you observed and whether the changes you made a difference in the output you obtained. So to open the discussion, please head over again to the AI, to the AHA slides. They're loading, so here is the URL. It's the same that we used before. And please share something from your prompting practice that you observed. So are there any questions or insights that you obtained, or any concerns or surprises? Please feel free to type them on the slide, or if you feel comfortable, also feel free to raise your hand and speak up, or directly speak up.
I can share. I can start that the first prompt is kept on adding several emojis everywhere as a title and a few things. Though it was beautiful and it was good icons, but I wanted to make a LinkedIn post. So one emoji, that's fine, maybe two, but not that many. Then okay, this is a bit more professional. It's for LinkedIn. Can you please? It kept adding me more emoticons, the same amount. Didn't understand. Okay, let me clarify. I want less emoticons, more of the text and call to action, and especially bullet points, because I think I liked when I see a post with different bullet points straight to, and not very verbose.
Mm-hmm.
And at the third, yeah, I got something. I was happy with. But it's funny because it's really recurrent. I don't know if others have it. As soon as I share, as I say, it's for a social media, emojis everywhere. And even the numbers, like the numbers there's a number with a blue box that now you see everywhere, no, on LinkedIn. This is very AI thing. Why not?
Yeah.
What? Just a number, just a number. It's fine too.
That is true. I mean, there was there was a joke in the beginning times of AI that as soon as you see the rocket emoji in a LinkedIn post, it's AI generated, just because in the beginning the tools seem to really like rocket emojis. But in general, yeah, I share the observation that as soon as you mention social media posts, the tools overuse emojis and can't seem to turn it off. I share that frustration. Thank you for sharing that, Abdul. Okay, I see there are responses coming in, and the slides seem to be working, so I don't have to be refreshing them constantly. Someone wrote that they received a less complex answer than normally. I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, and maybe reducing complexity makes it better understandable, so maybe it is a good thing. But I see that Armando has raised his hand, so maybe he wants to share. Maybe that was his answer.
Sure. Yeah, I'm one of those people that have used AI. Maybe I can count it with one hand how many times I've used AI so far. So it was interesting that the prompt that I used, it was actually a conversation that I had with somebody, and he gave me similar solutions. So I can see why people use it so much. If you don't have anybody to talk to.
So maybe the person that you've talked to also used it before to.
Yeah, I'm sure they have.
Someone wrote that there's a more complete output with a greater input context. So that's reaffirming to hear that when you provide a more structured prompt, it reduces the number of times that you have to keep refining your prompt to get the desired output. It seemed more creative and original to me. Okay, that's interesting to hear. I wonder if you can include a prompt about conserving resources. That's interesting, and I'm not sure I understand correctly. Maybe the person who wrote that would like to elaborate. Or if not, maybe also in the chat.
I think maybe the reason why I don't use AI as much is because of all the resources it uses, especially energy and so on and so forth. Maybe that's what they mean.
I understand, but I'm wondering whether it's something, whether the person wants something to be included in the prompt to reduce AI. So what I can say, and I understand. I mean, we will touch upon the energy efficiency and the resource heaviness of using those tools. But something to consider is which tool and which model you use. So for example, ChatGPT has a variety of different models. It also depends whether you use the free version or the paid version, but also you sometimes have the option to choose the model, and maybe choosing a less elaborate model, so not a thinking or a reasoning model, but an instant or a more simplified model. Those are usually less resource intensive. And in general, asking yourself, is this task or this task that I want to tackle, is AI really needed for this case? And just being more mindful of the resource use. Someone explained that they used a one-shot prompt with a well-defined prompt as an AI beginner for the qualities of an excellent horticultural communicator for people of all ages. The answer was excellent. Okay, it even offered, that's something that AI tools often do, that they offer you something on top of what you initially asked that can be quite helpful to generate new ideas or expand on what you initially wanted. So I see also another person wrote that they did an Instagram post and it was more creative. So in general, positive experiences that people are sharing. There was a question in the chat, in the Zoom chat from Dora. Will you talk about protocols? I am not sure what type of protocol, so we will be touching on AI use and how to use it safely and responsibly, and I'll share an exemplary workflow, so a type of protocol. So maybe that will satisfy your question. Is there someone else who would like to share their experience, or someone who had maybe a negative or confusing experience or a question that they would like to bring to the group? If not, that is also fine. I see one comment that I would like to pick out before we move on. Someone wrote, sometimes I would prefer the model asked more about what I really want before putting a huge text. I understand this is connected to the prompt I write. That's a very good point. And another tip that I can share here is sometimes instead of trying to write the perfect prompt by yourself, you can ask the AI to write the prompt for you. So explain what you want and then maybe say, maybe write, ask as many follow-up questions as you need until you have all the information answered that you need to fulfill this task. And then you get a list of questions from the AI. You basically get interviewed by the AI. You enter all the information it needs, and this sometimes helps to get a more coherent and useful output. So it doesn't always need to be the perfect prompt from the start. Okay. So thank you for sharing your experiences, and I hope this was helpful and gave you some thoughts and ideas of how you can improve your AI use. Now let's move on. So we've started today discussing and looking at the opportunities of generative AI, of all the benefits it can bring, but there are certainly also drawbacks and risks that we really need to be aware of when it comes to using these tools. And again, I've grouped the risks in 5 different categories. This list is not exhaustive, but it's just meant to give you a structured overview, and the language should talk about the risks in a clear and constructive way. So the first risk that is very often mentioned is falsification. So generative AI tools can produce content that sounds very correct and convincing, but is in fact wrong. And these so-called hallucinations can be very tricky, especially if the output is presented in a very confident way, and it makes it sound as if it's correct and very fluent. And this makes it easy to overlook errors, especially when it's about a topic that you might not be familiar with. So it's not easy to judge whether the content is correct or not. And this risk of hallucinations and falsification, because of this, it's very important to always fact check. Always double check the output from an AI tool and never simply use and take for granted what the AI tool gives. Another key risk is distortion. So AI systems are trained on a huge number of data, and these data can be inherently biased. So they can contain stereotypes or structural biases, and these biases can then be reproduced in the output. So if we use AI-generated content uncritically, we risk reinforcing these biases and then reproducing them. So that's something to be mindful of. AI tools also have transparency issues. So it's often unclear how exactly a text was generated, so what data it draws from, how or where certain claims come from or were constructed. And this lack of traceability and sources makes it harder to fact check or assess whether the quality of the presented information is really good, if the information is really correct. So again, it's very important to always fact check, but the lack of transparency makes it very difficult sometimes. And related to transparency, generative AI tools also raise concerns around data protection and also intellectual property rights. So on the one hand, anything you enter into an AI tool might be stored and used for further training of the model of the tool. This includes sensitive and confidential data. On the other hand, many models have been trained on copyrighted material, and sometimes without permission. This means that the output can contain passages or can contain phrases that are very close to an original work that was obtained without permission. And the risk of such unintentional plagiarism is low, but it exists and it's something to be aware of. And it's also, when using AI tools, worth checking the terms of use. So looking at how the models were trained, what data was used for training the models, was this publicly available data, under which licenses was this published, was consent or was consent obtained from the copyright owners. So simply checking the terms of use is very important. And then something that we briefly touched upon in the discussion of the exercise was the topic of sustainability. So generative AI systems are extremely resource intensive, both when they are trained, but also when they're used. So every prompt that we send, every output that we generate consumes energy, it consumes water, it consumes resources, and it's easy to forget that because it's so convenient to simply type something in and send it out. And you quickly receive a response. So it's worth to always ask ourselves, do I really need an AI tool for this specific task? Because not every task requires an AI tool. And sometimes it's simpler and quicker and less resource intensive to do it yourself without a tool. These risks that I just mentioned, these 5 categories, none of them present a reason to fully reject AI tools altogether and not use them. But we need to be mindful of these risks and use AI tools in a responsible manner. And we also need to be aware of the limitations and the risks so that we can reduce the harm that they can cause. So here is a workflow. Maybe this is a helpful protocol, referring to the question in the chat, of how you could use AI tools in a safe and responsible manner. This can help you guide your use. So the first step is preparing your input data. Never enter anything into an AI tool that is sensitive or confidential, or any personal data, any health-related data, any business secrets. Anonymize such data, or if possible, leave it out altogether. The second step is when choosing the AI tool, ideally select a GDPR compliant tool. The option here is rather limited. We'll discuss tools in a moment, but ideally you would choose a safe GDPR compliant tool. And then the third thing is, once you've chosen the tool, to enable the opt-out, or to opt out of your data being used for further training. You can usually do this in the settings options of each tool. So simply toggle this option, and then your input data won't be used for further training. Then you enter the prompt using the methods we discussed. And then, very important, always fact check the output. Check that it's factually correct, but also be mindful of any biases or stereotypes that might be reproduced in your output. So also be critical with regards to that. And then if you publish something that was written or produced with the help of AI, be transparent and also disclose the AI usage. So document which tool was used, and ideally also the prompt that was used, and disclose that and be transparent about it. Right, so this is a very simple workflow that can make AI use more safe and responsible. And now we can finally turn to the tools, the different AI tools themselves. There are quite a few tools out there, and since we have only limited time, we'll focus on text-based AI tools, and I'll highlight the most important text-based AI tools and their central features and what they are especially good for. Starting with perhaps the most well-known tool, which is also the one that is most widely used, and that is ChatGPT, which was developed by OpenAI. And it's a very good and strong all-rounder, so it is good for creative tasks, it's good for technical writing, for quick summaries, for all the different use cases we've discussed before. But like all tools, it is not perfect. It has its drawbacks. Hallucinations can happen. And also, even though ChatGPT has web access, so it has the ability to pull up-to-date information, the output and the answers are not always up-to-date. So it doesn't always pull the most recent sources. So that's something to be mindful of. But in general, it's a very capable and solid choice. The second tool that I wanted to share here is Gemini. That's Google's AI chatbot. And it shines especially when it comes for reasoning or to reasoning tasks. So really breaking down complex problems and making logical connections, also longer conversations, longer tasks, more advanced prompts, because it has a very large context window, meaning you can feed a lot of information into the tool, and it will be able to still follow you and not lose track. One thing to keep in mind with Gemini is that it is deeply integrated within the Google ecosystem. So if you don't want to support Google or you don't want to use the Google services, then Gemini is not the best fit for you. The third tool is Claude. That's a tool developed by another US-based company, Anthropic. It might be less well known, but it's a very interesting option, especially when it comes to a more nuanced output. It's known to provide the most human outputs out there. At least that's the claim that the company makes. It can handle long and also complex tasks impressively well, and it responds in a very sensitive and differentiated way compared to other tools. One limitation to keep in mind for this tool is that the company or the team behind the tool is smaller and the resources are limited. So the updates and the new features, it may take a while until they arrive when comparing them, for example, to ChatGPT or Gemini. So the development is simply a bit slower. Then we have Microsoft AI tool, Copilot. It's a tool that is fully integrated into the Microsoft 365 environment. So if you open Word or Outlook, you will be able to use Copilot. It is integrated within those tools, so it provides the output immediately where you might need it. That being said, if you're not a Microsoft user, if you don't use these tools, then Copilot is not an option for you because you can't use it outside of these applications. Then we have LeChat. I mentioned this briefly before. LeChat is from a French company, Mistral, and currently it's the only big tool or widely known tool that is GDPR compliant. So all the servers, all the infrastructure of this tool is based within the EU, and is thus GDPR compliant by design. It's developed with a strong focus on data protection and transparency. It's open source, so it makes it a good choice if you're working in a sensitive context or if data protection is a very strong concern for you. Also here, similar to Claude, the development team is smaller, the resources are more limited, so the functionalities are also limited and slower to roll out. But when it comes to their policy around transparency and openness, it's a very promising and refreshing company to have among all the AI giants. And then we also have Perplexity, a lesser known tool, but great for research. So for obtaining information, for retrieving information, and for fact checking. It pulls data from the web in real time, so it's very up to date. It provides sources in the output, so citations, so you can easily cross-reference and fact-check whether the output is really correct. So it's great for any research or journalistic purposes. That said, it's also very important to approach it critically and always check that the output is correct and that the sources are also reliable. And then the final tool that I wanted to share here is Notebook LM. It's a tool developed by Google. So like Gemini, and it's very well suited for what I call personal knowledge management. So you can upload documents, PDF documents, Word documents, presentations, and you can ask the tool to summarize these documents into different formats. So for example, you can generate mind maps, you can generate flashcards, you can generate quizzes, you can generate written summaries, infographics, you can even generate an audio summary of the content you provide, so like a podcast or even a video summary. So it's very helpful for getting a quick overview of different documents, different sources, and assessing them in a very structured way. Very, very helpful for any research. So with this whirlwind tour through different text-based AI tools, importantly and final thing to mention is that all the tools have their strengths, but also their weaknesses. So there's no such thing as the perfect AI tool. So I encourage you to use different tools depending on your purpose, to always try different tools and see which tool works best for which task. And yeah, try to find your own favorite for different purposes. And one very important last reminder is that most of these tools are developed by US-based companies. Their servers are in the US, so data protection is a big concern. And out of all these, the chats from Mistral is the only GDPR compliant tool. So this should be your go-to option if data protection is of your concern. But yeah, that's something to be mindful of when, for example, using ChatGPT or Gemini and so on. Right. So with this in mind and with this list of tools, I would now like to give you some more time to test the tool out for yourself. So again, the task is to choose a task from your own to-do list. This can be the same task that you worked on before, but now I would encourage you to try a new to you tool. So maybe from the list I shared before, try a new tool and see how the tool compares to other tools you've used before. I encourage you to use the prompting methods that we discussed in the first part of the workshop. Yeah, again, as you work on your task, maybe note down some takeaways or some insights that you would like to share with the group. Let's take 10 minutes for the individual work, and then we'll reconvene and we'll discuss takeaways, but then we'll also have some time for questions in general about this topic. So I'll stop sharing, and before I let you go, are there any questions at the moment about the task or anything? Is anything unclear? If not, have fun with the different AI tools, and I'll talk to you in 10 minutes. So it's 2:45. Hey, I hope you had some time to explore some of the AI tools or some new to you AI tools and combine them also with the methods we discussed for good AI output. To open the discussion, I'd be curious to hear what you tried, maybe what AI tool you tried, or what you experienced, any insights or best practices that you want to share with the group. So please head over again to the AHA slides. The URL is on the top of my slide here, and share one thing that you would that you have experienced, a question, an insight that you want to share with the group. Alternatively, if you don't want to type or if you feel comfortable speaking up, please feel free to unmute yourself and share directly with the group. Roberto shared in the Zoom chat a very interesting experience comparing ChatGPT and the chat, it's very valuable what he shares in that he has used ChatGPT more extensively compared to LeChat. So this gives ChatGPT an unfair advantage because the tool, of course, also learns from previous conversations that you've had if you have an account. So that the answers are more tailored to what you want to achieve. So that's something to keep in mind as you explore new tools, that the new tool might not have as much background information about your own writing style and preferences. That's something to be mindful of. Thank you for sharing that, Roberto. I can see there's also a statement on the AHA slides that the different tools are very different in their output, even with the same prompt. That's important observation. And someone prefers Claude over all of them. So yeah, as you start exploring and using different tools, you will find that you have a strong preference to certain ones or even a single one. You start using that more and more. Yes, I fully agree. I also like that there's a European tool, so I'm also a big fan of LeChat. Yeah, different answers, so different modalities. So trying different tools can also be a way of getting a new perspective or a new tone if you are stuck with the same answer on one tool. Yes, someone is trying Notebook LM for producing a quiz and is now waiting on a PowerPoint. So yeah, it takes some time. The infographic, the audio summary, they do take some time to generate. Yeah, that is an important caveat. I see a variety of different experiences being shared. That's great. I also would like to open the floor and encourage more general comments or questions because we are coming up on time and I have shared everything that I wanted to share in terms of methods and tools and would now be curious to hear your thoughts or any questions that you have when it comes to AI use. So please feel free to speak up.
I can just comment that, for example, in Portugal, we're very keen for formal emails, especially if it is for like directors or something like that. So the language here can be more easily adapted for those of us that have more difficulty writing with such formality. So this is it makes it much easier.
that is a very, very good point. So adapting the language, the style to a more formal register or vice versa to a more informal, or even, I mean, writing emails can be sometimes very tricky because you have to balance the tone with what you want to convey. And yeah, getting an AI tool to as an editor can be very, very valuable. I see in the chat there's a question whether there's a way to delete sensitive information, say on ChatGPT or Gemini. I would say that's very difficult to guarantee that this information has indeed been deleted. For example, if you submit that information and then delete your account and request that all information associated with your account is deleted, you cannot guarantee that no traces are left and not stored. So the best way is to not include any sensitive information, to anonymize that information, and to activate or opt out of your input data being used for training to prevent it being added to any training data set. So those are the three things to do. Okay, there's a comment from Alice in the chat about Lichat. Great to hear. And also, there was a question before from Andreas about any tools that are free or offer reduced fees for NGOs, so for nonprofits. I've added a few suggestions, but if you are aware of any other, please feel free to chime in. So I know that Gemini offers a version and also Canva. Yes, so Alice raises a very interesting point in the chat. I'll just briefly read it out for all of us. So if we cannot delete information, then does that not imply that we can actually manipulate what AI offers? So the more of us who use AI tools, the higher the likelihood that they will favor our positions. That is a very good point. And there is also the worry that the more AI generated content is being published and floods the internet, which is then in turn used again for training the AI models, creating a circular loop of AI being trained on AI content, worsening the data set. So yes, that is a very valid point that anything you publish is then openly available and then can be used for training future AI models. So in that way, if a critical mass is being reached, yes, it can sway the models in one direction or the other. Yeah. Okay. There are no further questions or comments. I will, as you know, that Mihaela is paying such influence, then how do we offset that? Yes, that is a very, very important question and something to be wary of. And also by using or by with the choice of tool that you make, I mean, that's also a vote that you are casting. Where do you put, which tools do you use? Do you use tools from US giants or do you use more GDPR compliant tools? Something to be wary of. I see that Armando has his hand up.
Yeah, just a question because you mentioned, and especially of the issues that people are raising on where information can be swayed. What are some of your suggestions for us to fact check besides using another AI tool to fact check the other? And then going back to the library or something, do you have any suggestions that can be more efficient and effective?
It's very tricky, especially when it comes to fact-checking information that you're not an expert on. You can't be expected, or you can't read scientific studies for areas outside of your field. So I would say a first, maybe low threshold option is to ask for citations and sources. So for the AI tool to give you the links. So at least you have the option to click on the link. So you can check, is this first an existing source? Because sometimes it hallucinates links that don't exist. Then you can at least check the output. So the outlet, was it a reputable outlet, if it's a media outlet, or if it's a scientific journal, is it a non-predatory, reputable journal? And then you can maybe read the abstract of the scientific paper. So as a first step, asking for the sources. And for example, Perplexity offers them as hyperlinks directly. So that can be a first way. Okay. Alice is recommending a tool that I'm not familiar with. So that's thank you for sharing. That's something that I will look into after the workshop. And in terms of image creator tools, we did not touch on that due to time constraints. Canva was mentioned. So Canva has an AI tools embedded in it that are free for nonprofits for generating images, also animations and videos. Adobe Firefly is also within the Adobe suite. So those are the DALI is also a widely known, also paid tool. So those are the ones that come to my mind. Okay. If there are no further questions or comments, then I want to thank you for joining this workshop today, for actively participating, for sharing your experiences. My colleague Ariana is sharing further visual AI tools in the chat. Thank you for that. So have a look. Those are good recommendations, as she's an expert from our audiovisual team. Great. Thank you for attending today's workshop. I hope it was useful. I hope you took something away. I shared the handout with you. I'll also share the slides for further distribution, and you'll have the recording. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out anytime via email. Yeah, thank you, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.